Bro is in Megumi's body reacting and blocking attacks from blue amped Gojo. With no domain amplification either, he's just like that. Y'all call it glaze, but look at him cheesing. That type of love for the game, you can't find it anywhere else. So JJK is coming back to take over the internet. And just like last time, they're cooking up with the anime and manga combo. And whether you even like JJK or not, there's one fight that damn near everybody knows. It's Sukuna versus Gojo. Now with this fight has birthed Lobotomy Kaizen. The best I can describe Lobotomy Kaizen, it's just a bunch of agendas. It's usually not meant to be taken seriously. But when it comes to JJK fans, everything is serious. The reason I mentioned Gojo versus Sukuna over any other character in JJK, it's because that it has the worst agenda in all of JJK. I'm telling you, if you follow the fight when it was airing, the Fraudjo memes was going crazy, bro. I'm telling you, Sukuna fans, the 3 Sukuna fans at that time, was going up against 10,000 Gojo fans. I'm telling you, this shit was actually nuts. But that's not what I'm necessarily talking about. I'm talking about the daddy raga propaganda, the mother and father of Sukuna. And the reason why I have a problem with those type of memes, it's not even the fact that they made those memes. It's the fact that it's actually messing up people's reading comprehension. What I mean by that is that I feel like most of these guys was reading the fight through memes and leaks, strictly. Like the first time Sukuna used mahoraga, it was okay. It was chill. But as soon as bro used mahoraga the second time, it was literally the worst thing I have ever seen. Bro, if you ask any fan at that time, if mahoraga on his own came out to save Sukuna, they will say you're correct. Again, the Fraudjo allegations were strong as hell at this time. Even when the fight ended, Sukuna was treated as a dumbass without mahoraga. They think he's a literal cripple without mahoraga. He can't do nothing without mahoraga. Mahoraga was literally his dad. It was crazy. They treated mahoraga like he was the head of the fight. Now with all that, do I think mahoraga carries Sukuna? Nope. No. People are gonna show the memes, but at the end of the day, those are really just memes. Like, hear me out. Sukuna was babysitting mahoraga damn near the whole fight. Hell, the reason mahoraga even survived this far was actually because of Sukuna's strategy to make mahoraga adapt to Gojo's techniques. Not trying to be one of those desperate Sukuna fans that say Sukuna was holding back the whole fight, but I ain't gonna lie, he was holding back at the start. And what makes me really not convinced that Sukuna loses to Gojo is him not being able to use his true form, and with very good reason. And the reason is that he had literally had to fight the whole verse after Gojo. Let's say he beat Gojo in his true form. The fight would still most likely be a high difficulty fight. If he couldn't heal his physical self, then he would lose to even Kashimo. It sounds like headcanon, but I've seen an interview with Gege saying Sukuna's biggest threat after Gojo was Kashimo. There's different translations, but from what I'm understanding, Kenjaku was informing Sukuna about the aftermath of his fight with Gojo, and he informed him about Kashimo's technique. Meaning, now really hear me out, bro. Sukuna held back his better form because he knew that he had to go high diff with Gojo, so he had to heal his physical self. And there's one more reason why I think Sukuna was holding. Let's pause for a second. I've been looking over this video and I realized I went way off topic of the original video idea. And instead of memes, I just turned the shit about power scaling Gojo versus Sukuna. But I don't think it's a bad thing, to be honest, because the next point I'm about to talk about will show you why mahoraga is straight garbage. If you think everything about this video is satire, just know I'm being so real when I say mahoraga is actually dog shit. And yes, I do understand he created a blueprint for World Cut and Slash, but my goodness, bro, if you reread the fight, he's so ass in so many ways when actually combating Gojo. And yes, he is fighting Gojo, but bro, it looked like Gojo had an easier time fighting the 3v1 rather than Sukuna in the domain battle. It's not that I even hate mahoraga. He's pretty cool, I guess. But the amount of glaze he received in this fight needs to stop. When there's an obvious way Sukuna could have won against Gojo without mahoraga. Possibly easier. But I'm gonna stop rambling. Back. It's because of mahoraga. Most JJK fans are convinced that Sukuna was carried by mahoraga. Now listen to me, bro. I'm your source. Mahoraga was a literal parasite to Sukuna at the start of the fight. First of all, to even use adaptation with mahoraga, Sukuna can't even use any other means of attack, which is domain amplification. Now granted, domain amplification by itself isn't a win con, but domain amplification with domain expansion, Sukuna has a much better chance of winning. The main reason why I believe this to be true, after the last domain clash, Sukuna reveals that while not using domain amplification, he's using adaptation. This could mean two things. One, Sukuna is fumbling between adaptation and domain amplification. Or two, Sukuna isn't using domain amp at all and is waiting for Mahoraga to adapt to Unlimited Void. I feel like the first option makes more sense, but Sukuna does things in a fight that is more risky and doesn't make sense to Gojo, so even if he was fumbling between domain amp and adaptation, it's still a limit to himself. Even with all that, Gojo only won the domain clash with a tie and beat Sukuna by only less than 0.1 seconds. Now, if you're trying to prove that true form Sukuna is better than Meguna, then there's an obvious reason why Meguna is weaker than true form Sukuna. And if we on top of that add the fact that Mahoraga isn't a factor in the fight, then Sukuna doesn't have to worry about adaptation for half the fight. Since the fight won't go past the domain clashes, it will just depend on who will land the domain first. In Sukuna's case, he'll just have to match Gojo's domain, or possibly outright beat it with the extra arms and mouth. In Gojo's case, he has to outright beat Sukuna in that clash. If he doesn't, then the possibility of him losing here is higher. There's another reason why I think Sukuna didn't use everything he got in that fight. Sukuna has a cursed tool called Kamutoke. It's a cursed tool weapon that releases big AoE lightning attacks. The reason I think this is very important is because that Sukuna had this in the bag and didn't use it. I know it won't work because of Infinity, but there's one way I can see Sukuna using it in the battle. In the first domain class, when we see Sukuna break Gojo's domain, he's able to keep him at a standstill in the domain so he doesn't go anywhere. To be fair, this is a huge feat for Gojo because he's able to move well inside of Sukuna's domain. Even with full blast RCT, he's still sustaining crazy damage. So much so that he activated simple domain 2 times. Now we know that Gojo's limitless curse technique is not activated, meaning that Infinity is not a factor in that clash. Now with that little piece of information, Sukuna can use Kamutoke to disrupt Gojo's flow. And every time Gojo will go on to use simple domain, Sukuna will just smite the fuck out of him. So yeah, with that being said, Sukuna wins because I like him more, and Todo is the greatest sorcerer of all time. But to recap, Gojo versus Sukuna is the closest fight in all of anime. Maybe that's too much, but all of JJK, to be honest. But I feel like people saying it was a 3v1 against Gojo kind of downplays what Sukuna had to do for it to get to that point. The idea of Sukuna holding back in that fight, it's such a hard concept for people to grasp, is insane to me. Even if you ignore all of the 50 million statements of Sukuna holding back, you see a lesser version of Sukuna fighting a Gojo that can use blue and red. Bro is in Megumi's body, reacting and blocking attacks from blue amped Gojo with no domain amplification either. He's just like that. Y'all call it glaze, but look at him cheesing. That type of love for the game, you can't find it anywhere else. And that's all I have for the video. That's why memes and Lobotomy Kaizen can't be taken seriously. I kind of got off track and turned it into a power scaling video. Y'all power scalers got it. I don't want no smoke. And yeah, Yuji's not top 5.